Good day, everyone. We are the reporters of Lesson 14, the Agrarian Reform. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to trace the history of the land reform program in the Philippines, discuss the salient features of each agrarian system, and lastly, evaluate the comprehensive agrarian reform program. The Philippine economy is largely agricultural and industrial. Agriculture has been existing even during the pre-colonial times, considering that rice is an Asian staple food along with other crops. The agriculture economy, however, has brought about economic and social problems concerning the agrarian structures as well as land tenancy with the farmers, the one who are actually cultivating fields as the losers in this system. The American colonization period. During the American colonization of the Philippines, the colonial government tried to solve the agrarian problem by purchasing the so-called friar lands from religious corporations and selling them to the tenants. However, much of the land ended up with the new landlords who were mostly Filipinos. The agrarian problems worsened during the American period. Many tenants soon began to resort to armed means to get back their land. Some of them claimed that the lands they were tilling were owned by their ancestors before these lands were claimed by the landlords with land titles. The Tayug Uprising in Pangasinan in 1931, as well as the Sakdalista Uprising in 1935, prompted the government to address the agrarian problems. As part of his program for the Commonwealth government, President Quezon espoused social justice in an attempt to stop the agrarian unrest in Central Luzon and alleviate the poverty of the farmers. This program was in line with the provision of Article 2, Section 5 of the 1935 Constitution, which state that the promotion of social justice is to ensure the well-being and economic security of all people should be the concern of the state. The Commonwealth era. Quezon enacted some land reform laws during the Commonwealth period. The Commonwealth Act No. 178 on November 13, 1936, amending the Rice Tenancy Act No. 4045 of 1933, provided for certain controls in the landlord-tenants relationships with regards to rice lands. He also created the National Rice and Corn Corporation in 1936 to control the prices of rice and corn, which benefited the farmers and consumers. The Rural Program Administration, an office created in 1939, was mandated to facilitate the sale or lease of the haciendas to the tenants. Many of the social justice programs of the Commonwealth government, however, were not enforced. Legislation of these planned programs was thwarted by many of the land-owning legislators in the Commonwealth National Assembly who would be affected if they would pass this law.
Third to fifth Philippine Republic. Agrarian problems still remain even after Philippine independence was declared in 1946. What made it worse was that the agrarian unrest became part of the full-blown revolt against the government. The movement was spearheaded by the former members of the peasant guerrilla army, Hukbong Bayan Laban sa Hapon or Huk Balahap, who later changed their name to Hukbong Mapagpalaya ng Bayan or People's Liberation Army. The succeeding administrations tried to address these agrarian problems while at the same time attempted to suppress the insurgency. During the Rojas administration 1946 to 1948, President Manuel Rojas enacted Republic Act No. 34, which established 70 to 30 sharing arrangements between landlord and tenants and regulated shared tenancy contracts. There was also Republic Act Number 25, which provided security to tenants from arbitrary ejectment from the land they are cultivating. On October 30, 1950, President Elpidio Quirino, 1948 to 1953, issued Executive Order Number 355, which replaced the National Land Settlement Administration, a government agency, with the Land Settlement Development Corporation and the Rice and Corn Production Administration. It was during the Magsaysay administration, 1953 to 1957, that an attempt on land reform was made. In 1954, President Ramon Magsaysay signed Republic Act Number 1199 or the Agricultural Tenancy Act of 1954, which governed the tenant-landowner relationship by organizing the shared tenancy and leasehold system. It also created the Court of Agrarian Relations. The Macapagal administration 1961 to 1965 continued the efforts to advance agrarian reform. On August 8, 1963, President Diosdado Macapagal signed Republic Act Number 3844 or Agricultural Land Reform Code, which heavily favored tenants farmers. Its provisions included the abolition of shared tenancy and provided for the leasing of agrarian lands to farmers. It also set a retention limit of 75 hectares for landowners, invested rights of preemption and redemption for tenants farmers, put in place an administrative machinery for implementation, institutionalized a judicial system for agrarian cases, and incorporated extension, marketing, and supervised credit system of services for farmer beneficiaries. Following the imposition of martial law in 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos declared the inter-country a land reform area through Presidential Decree No. 2 issued on September 26, 1972. It was almost a year before Marcos signed Republic Act No. 6389 or the Code of Agrarian Reform, which created the Department of Agrarian Reform.
On October 1972, Presidential Decree No. 27, signed by President Ferdinand Marcos, pinalayan niya ang lahat ng mga magsasaka ng nangungupahan na nagtatrabaho sa mga pribadong lupang pang-agrikultura na nakatuon sa bigas at mais. Nagtatrabaho man sa isang lupain o hindi, ang sistema ay pinatupad sa pamagitan ng isang sistema ng sharecropping o less tenancy. Marcos Agrarian Reform Program also included credit support, infrastructure, and legal assistance for farmers. The 1987 Constitution na pinagtibay sa panahon ng administrasyon ni Corazon Aquino noong 1986 to 1992 ay may kasamang provisions na lumikha ng isang batas sa reformang agrarian sa Article 14, Section 4 at nagtataguyod ng kaunlaran sa bukid at reformang agraryo sa Article 2, Section 21. On June 15, 1988, Aquino also enacted other laws such as first, Executive Order No. 228 on July 16 to 1987, declared full ownership to qualified farmer beneficiaries covered by Presidential Decree No. 27. It also determined the value remaining unvalued rice and corn lands, subject of Presidential Decree No. 27, at ibinigay para sa paraan ng pagbabayad sa pamamagitan ng mode ng pagbayad sa mga may-ari ng lupa. Second, Executive Order No. 29 on July 22, 1987 provides for compulsory registration by natural and legal person owning land in order to permit valuation of the property in case it should be acquired by the government for purpose of agrarian reform. Third Proclamation Number 131 on July 22, 1987, ayon kay Aquino, itinatag ang CARP bilang pangunahing programa ng gobyerno. Nagbigay ito para sa isang espesyal na pondo na kilala bilang Agrarian Reform Fund or ARF na may paunang halaga na 50 billion pesos upang sakupin ang tinayang gastos ng programa mula noong 1987 to 1992. Fourth Executive Order Number 129-A on July 26, 1987 that streamline at pinalawak ang lakas at pagpapatakbo ng Department of Agrarian Reform or DAR ng batas ng Republican Number 129-A. Fifth Executive Order Number 407 on June 14, 1990 na nag-utos sa pag-acceleration ng pagkuha at pagmamahagi ng mga lupang agrikultura, mga pastulan, mga fish pond, agroforestry lands at iba pang mga lupain ng public domain na angkop para sa agrikultura. A dilemma during the Ramos administration 1992 to 1998 was to receive public trust in the Agrarian Reform Program. The program was deemed a failure during the Aquino administration because former President Aquino was a member of the Conzango family, which owned one of the largest hacienda in Luzon, the Hacienda Lucita. The hacienda, which was mainly devoted to sugarcane production, was notably exempted from agrarian reform, which was concentrated mostly on rice and corn lands.
President Fidel Ramos made the program of one of the priorities of his administration. He enacted the laws and strengthened the implementation of CARP. CARP purpose is to promote of equality of social justice, food security, and poverty alleviation in the countryside. On Republic Act Number 7905, he limited the landed conservation scheme by making certain types of agriculture land as non-legitimate for conservation or highly restricted to be converted, or known as an act strengthened the implementation of a comprehensive agrarian reform program and for other purposes which approved on February 23, 1995. He also signed Republic Act Number 8532, the Agrarian Reform Fund Bill, which provided an additional 50,000 billion pesos per CARP and extended its implementation for others 10 years. President Joseph Estrada in 1998 to 2000. Though he had a short term of office, he enacted an Executive Order Number 151 that consolidated small farm operation into medium or large-scale enterprises to quality for long-term capital. He also ordered the DAR, or the Department of Agrarian Reform, to plan joint projects between private investors in agrarian sector under the Magkabalikat para sa Kaunlarang Agraryo o Magsasaka Program. President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in 2000 to 2010. The Department of Agrarian Reform was named twice during the administration of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. It was named the Department of Land Reform, Executive Order Number 364 on September 27, 2004, and got back to using DAR again, Executive Order Number 456 in August 23, 2005. In Executive Order Number 364 was enacted to widen the function of the Department of Land Reforms Abyss Land Reform programs in the Philippines. Also, the order added jurisdiction over the Philippines Commission of Urban Poor or PCUP and the recognition of ownership of ancestral lands. However, less than a year later, President Arroyo signed Executive Order Number 456, which instructed the Department of Land Reform to revert to its original name, Department of Agrarian Reform. Whereas Executive Order Number 364, Series of 2004, placed PCUP under the supervision and control of Department of Land Reform or DLR, now as known as the Department of Agrarian Reform or the DAR. By virtue of Executive Order Number 456, Series of 2005, however, the concerns of the urban poor go beyond undertaking and continuing program of land reform and housing and shall therefore include the totality of the factor for decent living and support service design to alleviate the plight of urban poor. President Arroyo also signed the Republic Act number 9700 on August 7, 2009, which extending the comprehensive agrarian reform program for other 5 years beginning on July 2009. That the same law slots 150 billion pesos for the acquisition of distribution of 1.6 million hectares of land for 1.2 beneficiaries in the provision and support service for farmers. President Benigno Aquino III. Agrarian reform seems to have not fared well under the administration of President Aquino. A report by the Non-Governmental Organization or NGO, the focus of the Global South in 2013, halfway through the Pinoy administration, showed the dismissal performance by the Department of Agrarian Reform and Land redistribute in spite of the promise by the government to complete it by June 2014. The properties of Department of Agriculture or DA, which were concentrated on the agribusiness subsector made by the DARP, the sole department that provide farmers support for their agricultural product. The farmers also compete with foreign agriculture products which enter the local market through the economic liberalization program of the government.